was 4 years old. I shared my faith with my next door neighbor, and I carried around my Bible and preached to stuffed animals and baptized dolls. And at that point, it was the 1980s, so nobody thought that a little girl was going to grow up to be a pastor. But I knew I needed to be in ministry. So I was planning to do mission work, and I told anyone who would listen that when I get big, I'm going to go around the world and tell people about Jesus. So then, about halfway through college, I realized that God was calling me to seminary. And I still was headed towards mission work. I was not thinking about being a pastor quite then, but I thought, okay, God, you are calling me to seminary, so I'll do that, and then I'll go off to mission work. But then the summer I was 21, I did ministry in India. And the ministry went well for the most part, but I got terribly sick and nearly died there. So I got home and my tropical medicine doctor said, you can never live in a developing country again because of all these medical complications. So I didn't know what was going to happen, where I was going to go. But then that next summer, I had an amazing evangelism experience, and God really revealed to me all of the ministry opportunities that are all around us in North America. So then God made it clear that the call I felt at the seminary was also a call to go on to pastoral ministry. So I started seminary with that in mind, and that was really affirmed by a year-long internship at Brookside CRC.
Okay, that's helpful. Now, there you are. You go through the seminary process, you graduate, you pass all those hard comprehensives, and then comes this calling process, which is, I'm going to guess, given that you're a female, this is a little bit more challenging than I would experience. And so tell us a little bit about how did you get drawn to the Mosaic Church? How did that relationship start? And give us a little bit of God's activity on how that calling happened at Mosaic.
I had interviewed with a few other churches and it hadn't quite worked out there, so I wasn't sure where I'd end up. And then I got an email about Mosaic wanting pulpit supply from Calvin Seminary graduates. So I signed up to preach there, and then noticed they were also looking for a pastor. So I called Neil Hunter, one of the head elders, and we talked for a while and really hit it off. And I ended up meeting Neil and Michelle Hunter for coffee at McDonald's just to sort of chat, get to know each other a little bit. Well, we had such a fantastic conversation. We sat in that McDonald's for 4 hours. It was incredible, the passion that I saw in them for ministry, and how well our visions of what the church should be lined up with each other. So that was really an awesome time of getting to know each other. So then we began the interview process, and I preached at Mosaic a number of times and got to know the congregation a bit, and fell in love with the congregation, and they offered me a job.
Excellent. Now tell us, speaking of the job, tell us a little bit about your responsibilities, the types of things that you'll be doing at Mosaic, and then give us a little idea of Mosaic Church. What's it like? And tell us a little bit about the church over there.
Okay. My main responsibilities are preaching and pastoral care. I'm working part-time, and I have a partner pastor who does half of the preaching and the outreach, and I do half of the preaching and all the pastoral care. And I also do things like go to leadership meetings, and I'll be doing sacraments and potentially weddings and funerals and all that stuff. Mosaic is a small church community in Fremont, Michigan. There are about 50 people involved right now. Generally, 35 of us worshiping together on a Sunday morning. And it was founded 4 years ago. A small group of people realized that there was a niche in Fremont for a less traditional worship opportunity. So on Sunday mornings, we have a very casual, flexible time of worship together. There's Play-Doh to play with during the service, and kids dance during the singing, and it's not at all uncommon for a hand to shoot up to the question during the sermon. So, first time that happened when I was preaching, I was a little bit surprised. But now it's become a great way to really engage with the congregation, have a conversation about the topic, and it's awesome if a teenager is so into the sermon that they shoot their hand up and yell out a question. That's fantastic. So now I really enjoy that idea.
Okay, she's talking about Mosaic Church, okay? You don't have to shoot up your hand. Throw it a little bit more. And what is happening here is that the folks of Mosaic have called her, and she has accepted their call and will be their pastor. And as the denomination, because Catherine has been trained at the Calvin Theological Seminary and she is part of the Christian Reformed denomination, we want to say, oh, can we walk alongside? Can we be part of this great story that God is doing with you and at the folks of Mosaic? And so what we're going to do is kind of keep in this story just a bit by ordaining her as a minister of the Word in the Christian Reformed Church. It allows you to have access to a number of resources and stay connected to seminary and to the First Church, which is the church you are attending. What we want to do is be supportive. And so we'll offer prayers. We'll get updates for what's happening. But truth be told, you and the good folks at Mosaic, you'll do this. You're in the ministry and in the kingdom. And what we are doing today is ordaining you, and then our church wants to say, we're into it. We want to help out in any way possible. And that's what's going on and why we're ordaining her, and then in a sense, offering our support in a variety of ways. Enough said. We'll move down and we'll start with God's Word. I can't help but think, though, because